Well, today, step 8, 9, and 10 of the 12-step program. Mary's here. We're going to help you today, live on Restoring Hope.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope. Open my eyes to see. See the world through different eyes. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
Welcome to this edition of Restoring Hope Live, a ministry to help Christians understand life's hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Whether that be addicted to drugs or alcohol or a food addiction or a food issue, divorce, being the parent of a teenager. Now, Mike Hartwig, of course, is my co-host along with Bob Montserrat. I have an honest question to ask you. You're a pastor.
Okay.
And you are also a doctor of counseling.
Yeah.
And your wife is a kindergarten teacher.
She is.
For 20 years.
Right.
And you raised 3 kids.
We did.
Did you go through the issues as a parent of teenagers, as a pastor that most of us go through?
Of course.
Do you really?
Well, yeah. But, you know, our kids.
You have really good kids.
Yeah, they have good kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not perfect by any stretch of
But they're better than you are. So how'd
Well,
that
they
happen?
are. No, it's my wife. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that's it.
She gets
Yeah.
all the credit.
So really, the question should be: did she go through that
Yes.
with me and the kids? Yes.
And she
The
did.
answer is yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Bob,
But
you
like-
have 2 kids?
3.
3. Did you go through any of that stuff?
Now, what do you mean by issues, though? What do you mean issues?
Well, today, for instance, the sermon at church was on the 8th commandment, which was lying. And
Right.
the pastor gave some examples on how one of his sons liked to exaggerate. And it wasn't
oh,
a...
yeah. Your
did he-
pastor's son likes to exaggerate. Now, where do you
Did
think
he
got
tell
that
that
from?
story at 8 o'clock? Oh, okay. When he got his black belt, there were some words written in Korean on the end of the belt,
Yeah.
and it was the name of the manufacturer. But Danny, who is just a great kid, told his little sister, Danny was 8, told his little sister that was Daniel Householder, which is his name, Danny Householder. And he told his sister that's what the belt said, that it was made especially for him. And Mike and Sally were like, now, Danny, that's not exactly true. And Danny's comeback was, well, how do you know? Do you read Korean? How do you know it doesn't say Daniel Householder? And so, you know, did you go through things like that with your
Oh,
kids?
yeah, all the time. Yeah, but those are the traits coming in from mom. Mom infused.
Mom
those-
was a liar?
Well, yeah, she carries all those traits.
She carries all
All those traits and
the character defects.
Right, of course. Yeah.
So you
Right.
really are perfect, aren't
Right.
you?
In many ways. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
See what I
and
put
I'm
up
not,
with,
and
Mary?
I'm not a liar
Gotta love
either.
it, gotta
right.
love it.
Yeah.
This is
right.
what I have to put up
Right.
with. All right.
It's a defense mechanism.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because Anyway.
Well,
but to answer your question, yes, I think we all do.
all parents go through
Right.
that.
Yeah, they do, and no one is exempt from it.
We've been walking you through the 12 steps, the 12-step program. And one of the reasons we do this show is to inform mom or dad or big brother or little sister or grandma or grandpa or workmate of some of the characteristics of people who are addicted to bad things. It could be prescription painkillers. It could be alcohol. It could be anger. Because as we've stated in the 12-step program, alcohol is only used once in the first step. And if you were to apply whatever hurt, habit, and hang up you have in your life to the 12 steps, you would find that it would work for you. You would find that you could not manage, what's the word? Overcome those things in your life that the accuser has a hold of that brings darkness to where there should be light. And so don't shut the radio off because I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about someone you know, and you know who they are. You don't have to say their name out loud, but on your heart, God has laid their name. And that's why we do this program, to help you understand. So maybe at the right time, you can come alongside someone in a bad season and you'll be equipped, educated, enthralled with the way God works through the 12-step program. And Mary is a 31 years,
Yes.
31 years sober. And in our community here in our hometown, she is a leader of many women. In the program, we call them sponsors. And you're really not allowed to go through a 12-step program without a sponsor. People do it, and that's okay. They're not asked to leave. The only requirement for membership in a 12-step program is the desire to stop drinking. Did you know that? That is the only requirement for membership, is a desire to stop drinking.
You know, interesting, in the early days of the program, it originally was written an honest desire. But then they started talking among themselves with the manuscript and said, okay, that is just a really big hole.
Yeah.
Because most alcoholics are going to say, well, count me out because, you know, honest? No, not so much. And the amazing thing is we eventually get to the point, speaking of the sermon this morning, where, you know, hopefully the majority of our life is honest. Right. But coming in, now they had to take out the word honest because too many people would discount themselves if we would have said an honest desire.
Yes. Because we are all sinners, and alcoholics are no exception. Our life is filled with sin. But one of the character defects an alcoholic carries more than most people is we're not able to be honest very often.
No, because we're usually hiding things, don't want people to know about stuff, doing things we shouldn't be doing, and we just want to cover really well.
Yeah. So we have gone through the first through the 7th steps, and understand that these steps are not 12 suggestions in a bowl and you pull one out and say, oh, well, now I'm going to do this one. It is actually a process. So if you haven't heard the first 1 through 7, you might go to your Google and look them up and read them for yourself. I can go over them very quickly, but you're better off to probably just go yourself and Google them so you know what they are. But the first step is to simply admit that your life's screwed up and that alcohol is a big part of that. The second one is to recognize that God can help you if you want him to. And the third one is you turn your life and your will over to God. Fourth one is you add up all the crappy things that you are and the crappy things that you've done, and you figure out the character defects that sit within those, and you list them. And then in the 5th step, you tell God and one other human being about all this messed up crap you did in your life. And then in the 6th one, you give those to God, and in the 7th one, you ask him to please, you humbly ask him to remove your character defects.
How long does it take typically a person to get to point 7?
Year?
It depends on the person and the sponsorship relationship and what their experience is. When you do the way I have done it the last time, it probably takes a year to get there if you do it very, thoroughly, where you're going through the book page by page, word by word. The 4 and 5 takes quite a while. 5, is a 3, 4, 5, 6 hour process, depending, on the situation. So,
and you really do 6 and 7 right when you do 5. So 5, 6, and 7 go usually the same day.
So it's not something you walk in and say, I'm tired of being an alcoholic, or I'm tired of this, whatever it is that you're dealing with, and then next day you jump down to number 8. You're ready to move on 8.
No.
Do you have people that try to move that quickly? Do they say this is taking too long?
Well, a lot of people start out with 8. They want to go say
make a list of
sorry.
everyone they've hurt.
Right. Well, we've had a request. There's been a few of us gals that have been going through the steps. Anyway, and it's taken almost 2 years, and there's reasons for that. And so somebody have asked us. So we're going to put on a workshop here locally for some people that are interested in going through the steps, page by page, word by word in the book. And I had one guy ask me about it, and I said, well, you can expect probably about an 18-month process. 18 months.
Yeah.
I said, well, what are you going to be doing besides anyway? What else have you got to do? So, it's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
It's a life-changing process.
And if you try to do it too quickly, you'll screw up and you'll go back and drink. All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, step 8. Mike, what is step 8?
It is make a list of everyone I've hurt.
Right. And be willing to make amends to them. Back next on Restoring Hope.
Make amends to them all.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program, Transformations. Change your life, change your relationships, transform your world.
Learn more now at RestoringHopeLive.com.
Here's Dan Celia with today's Stewardship Moment.
I also count all things lost for the excellence of the knowledge of Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and count them as rubbish, that I may gain Christ. Philippians 3:8, Paul clearly understood the unimportance of earthly things. The knowledge of Jesus Christ was so important to Paul that it became a part of his everyday stewardship of that knowledge of that word. See, God gives us all things. We have stewardship even for the knowledge of Christ.
You've just heard a Stewardship Moment with Dan Celia of Financial Issues Ministry, helping you plan, give, and invest wisely. For more information, log on to financialissues.org. That's financialissues.org.
A Marriage Moment with Dr. Mike Hartwig for Marriage Matters Live.
You can learn a lot for your marriages around the second law of thermodynamics. In basic layman terms, that law means that when left to ourselves, things naturally fall apart. All you have to do is look at your teenager's room, and left to itself, it will definitely fall apart. So it is in our marriages. Unless a couple continually works on their marriage, it is doomed for disintegration. Left to itself, it will fail. That's why scheduling regular times to get away with just you and your spouse are so important. Those getaways can be as simple as taking a walk around the block, going away for the weekend, or attending a marriage seminar. If you want a strong, happy marriage, you got to work at it. That means spending time together, talking, and enjoying each other.
This Marriage Moment and Marriage Matters Live is a ministry of Restoring Hope Live, heard Sundays on this station.
Restoring hope.
Make sure your child is up with the alarm and ready for school each morning, because missing just 18 days, even in middle school, will put their graduation at risk. It's up to you. Learn more at boostup.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Today, millions are struggling with alcohol or drug addiction. If you or people you know struggle with a chemical dependency where a substance owns you, and you have other struggles such as depression, anxiety, or trauma that can often go along with it, get your freedom back and successfully transform your life from one controlled by addiction to a clean, sober, fulfilling life. Contact Transformations Treatment Center, where our caring professionals will help you find your freedom. Transformations Treatment Center offers both a 12-step and a Christian 12-step program, providing healing for the mind, body, and spirit. At Transformations Treatment Center, we understand the pain. Get your freedom back. Transform your world.
Addiction specialists are ready to take your call. Call now, 877-989-5758. That's 877-989-5758. That's 877-989-5758. Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
Welcome back. This is Restoring Hope Live, brought to you by the good folks at Transformations. Go to our website at restoringhopelive.com, and you can find out about Transformations. It's a Christ-centered 12-step retreat center, rehab center, recovery center. It's in Florida, and I am creating a relationship with them because I don't have sponsors that I don't have a relationship with. You're probably never going to hear Ford Motor Company on this program. Not that they might not buy it. I think the listenership is exceptional. There's almost 4 million people, to our calculations, that listen to this program every week, either live or on XM Sirius, on American Family Radio, or through podcasts. I want sponsors that help you. I want sponsors that help us, who know what we're doing here and why we're doing it, and they're there to step up and help you when you run into that terrible point in one's life where outside help needs to be brought in. Because you can't do this. Two things. You don't do it until you're ready to. You can't force someone into therapy or into treatment. And number two, you can't do it for them. This is one of those, a lot of times it's a low bottom. It's the worst thing that's ever happened in your life, and you are a wreck. Your life has become unmanageable, and so therefore you seek help. Thank God there's places like Transformation.
Which really begs the question. We're talking about the 12-step program. You said it takes about a year just to get to the 7th step, 8th step, something like that. How do they do it when it's a treatment center like that? It's only like, some are only a week long, some of them are a month long.
They're 30, usually 30 to
45 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think my experience years ago, and I don't think it's changed a whole lot, the model of treatment for alcoholism was 30 days, and they take you through step 5. And I appreciate it's really quick. They don't maybe concentrate as heavily on 1, 2, and 3. They kind of whiz you through that, and then they get you start to write on your 4th step, which is about resentments and anger. And then they have you say it with a pastor, a chaplain that comes in and listens to them. Again, it's probably not as thorough, my personal experience and experience I've heard of others, as it needs to be, but it's enough to get me out of treatment, get the really huge, big, deep, dark secrets that are going to keep me drinking, that are going to keep me drunk, keep me angry, to get them off my person and to turn them over, to get me out there with some stability. I would think that most people that have done the steps in treatment absolutely are willing to do the steps with the sponsor outside of treatment.
And do they ever struggle with really, like there's one guy that comes to my mind, how do they come in and they identify what is a really deep, dark, down secret? Like some people don't even know what's really bothering them.
Right. Well, we shared last week, and I'm sorry you weren't able to be here, but just real quickly, when I was in treatment...
Mary, I didn't tell him we were doing a show last week. I didn't want to hear it. So.
Okay,
until right now we had a show.
Oh, sorry, blew that. Love the sense of humor. Anyway, there was a guy...
That's going on my list.
There was resentments, against Mac. Because he asked you to make one a few times ago. So start it now. Yeah. Anyway, when I was in treatment, again, 100 years ago, there was a guy who had made it all the way through treatment, and it finally came out. They felt like he was hiding something, but, he wouldn't come clean. Getting ready to graduate, he came clean. He couldn't read. He was probably 30, 40-some years old. His wife didn't know he couldn't read. His children didn't know he could read. And it finally came out that he couldn't read. And he drove a truck for a job. And they said, well, how do you find your way around? And it was before GPS and all of that, And he's like, well, I stop and ask questions, or I learn the way, or whatever. And so that would be like a really deep, dark secret.
Was he intentional about knowing that secret and just refused to...
He refused to acknowledge it, to let anybody know it was a deep, dark secret that he was keeping, that was keeping him drunk because he was hiding that from everybody.
So when I took a psychology class, and I'll never forget, the instructor was up there, and he brought a normal guy, really healthy guy. I played basketball with him. By the end of the semester, this guy was a nutcase because he kept on asking, no, you tell me about your parents. The next thing you know, he's bringing out this stuff about his parents, and then he says, well, that seems to be indication of this. And next thing you know, this guy it just totally changed his mind. And I remember seeing it in this class, large class, 100 people, and I kind of felt like he was drawing things out that weren't really there.
Oh, okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So
we don't all have deep, dark secrets.
Right.
I didn't have any big, deep, dark secret. But I'm just saying it's enough that, if there's really something out there that's making me angry, maybe it's not even a deep, dark secret, but I'm so angry about it. If I have a chance to talk about it, obviously you have a psychology doctorate, then, that helps. What I've learned in 12 steps is if I talk about it, I'm probably not going to act on it because I get it off my person and it relieves some of that stress. That's
talk about what?
Whatever this anger or resentment that keeps me drinking. Or, for example, that's why we say before you take a drink, call somebody, because chances are if I call somebody before I take a drink, I'm not going to drink.
Yep.
Because it gets whatever's going on with me. I can talk to somebody, go, I'm so mad, and I'm just, and then it's like, okay. Stop.
Okay,
Let's
so
talk about it.
I'm in a bar though, and I'm gonna take a drink. I just call somebody, hey, the Bulls lost last night. You know, I mean, I don't want
Well,
to have a drink.
We have the other
I
thing
mean-
is we have a little gimmick. You know, we have a chip program. People get chips. You're supposed to carry the chip in your coin purse, in your coin pocket, so that when
Yeah.
you think about drinking. But honestly, when you're that angry, you know, at 10 years sober, I was angry about something. I called up my sponsor and said, I was at home. I called up my sponsor. I said, you know what? That's it. I'm going to go drink. I've had it. I'm just done. And she said, no, you're not. I'm going to meet you at a meeting at 8 o'clock. I expect you to be there. You know, and being the good little responsible alcoholic that I was, you know, I went to a
Right,
meeting at
right.
8 o'clock and I didn't go get drunk, thankfully.
Right.
But I mean, I don't
Talking
know.
about it seemed to alleviate that.
Yeah, I mean, going
Right.
to a meeting, meeting her,
Now,
talking
why'd
to her
you look at me like
afterwards.
that when I said that? You
When you
looked at
said
me
what?
like, oh, that's not. I said, well, I'm going to go out and drink because my favorite sporting team lost.
Well,
I mean, you're looking at me like that's ridiculous. It is.
Anybody who, and tell me if this is wrong, because I'm being rather judgmental here, but anybody who's going to give up sobriety because their sports team lost isn't really someone who wants to be very sober anyway.
And let me tell you that
That's what you're reacting to.
Yeah, that-
you read through that.
Yeah.
As okay, there's something else going on here.
Yeah.
the gentleman that took me through the steps this last time told me his belief, and I agree, the drink is the confirmation of the slip. The slip happens long before you take the drink. The walking away from the spiritual principles, walking away from turning my life and my will over to the care of God. I am so back into self-will
Right, right.
when I'm going to take a drink, because that is absolutely not what God wants me to do. And so my lack of activities of going to meetings, talking to people, praying to God, helping others has happened long before I take that first drink. So I'm
like
wanting to
the way
drink
that
anyway.
yeah.
You know, and if I'm in a bar and my Bulls lost and I'm going to have a drink, long ago I had already decided to take that drink.
Yeah.
It's just confirmation of it.
Yeah. And
That's
it isn't
nicely
because the
stated.
Bulls lost.
Yeah.
All right. We're coming up on a break here, but let's start on the 8th step. And here's what the 8th step says. The 8th step reads like this, as I'm hitting my phone trying to get my program to come up.
I have it.
Okay, go ahead.
8th step is made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all.
Became willing, underline willing, to make amends, underline to them all. Now, the most important thing to remember about the 8th step is that you don't look ahead to the 9th, because the 9th is...
That you go to the person, it says, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others.
So if you think about 9, then you'll do 8 wrong. Make a list of people you are willing to make amends to them all.
Regardless of the alcoholism. In other words, it has nothing to do with alcohol. It just
Wait, no, it
refers
might.
to-
It might.
It might.
It might. Let me just say, you know, the first thing you do on the 8th step is you make a list of the people that you have harmed. And what
Wait,
it is...
Let me stop you right there. Make a list of people that I've harmed,
No, the people that I have harmed. So
not
let's just-
necessarily through my alcoholism.
Maybe. Maybe not. I mean, it depends.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It
It's
doesn't
just
matter. It's
people
just
in
some
my
people
life
that
that
I've
I've harmed.
hurt.
You go back
Period.
to your fourth step in your list of resentments, and there probably are people on there, as in my case, that treated me wrong, but I didn't treat them so good either.
Right.
And I'm looking at my side of
Right.
the street, not their side of the street. Okay.
Right.
So what you do is you make the list of harms, and it's what was the behavior, and then what was my behavior? How did it impact them? So
Okay,
there's
so-
two parts to that.
So guy has an affair on his wife.
Yeah.
I make a list. I mean, the guy makes a list of
Right,
that offense.
Right. That okay. So my behavior was I had an affair, and the impact was whatever you know.
But what
that
if there's
is.
no impact? What if
Well, there
she has been
is.
hurt?
Yeah, he went outside his marriage vows.
Yeah,
if
but he
nothing
didn't-
else.
But
And
what
she
if-
doesn't know about
what
it.
if she doesn't know?
Right. That's we get to 9. It's going to injure her, possibly to tell her. Okay. So that's why you work with a sponsor. All right. Because you don't just clear in your own conscience. You're trying to get your side of the street cleaned up. So that's why you go through it with the sponsor. Because if the wife doesn't know it, and say it was a friend, and you tell the wife, and you might mess up a whole nother couple's life, you know, you just
Right.
got to figure out how to do that. But you look at what was the behavior and then what was the impact of the behavior.
All right, that is the basis of the 8th step. We just did it. Now, when we come back, we're going to get to the tough part, making amends. And this is not, hey, I want you to know I'm really sorry about that thing that happened. I was drunk and, anyway, I'm sorry. That's not an amend. The word amend in the Greek language means to restore. And so you're restoring a relationship. That's the goal, at least, when we come back live on Restoring Hope.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our guaranteed success program, Transformations. Change your life, change your relationships, transform your world.
Learn more now at RestoringHopeLive.com.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something, and... Oh, wait, hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy, busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Pew, pew.
Wait.
Mom, what?
What? Hold
What'd
on.
you say? Wait a second, what?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The Pocket Testament League presents Pocket Power. Read, carry, and share the gospel every day.
Talking with strangers is exactly opposite my personality. Very difficult and immensely stressful. But how can I keep quiet? Yesterday was the first time I've went with people from my church specifically for evangelism.
This is Mike Brickley, president of the Pocket Testament League. League members have found that any place is a good place to share a pocket gospel with someone they meet. Join us and you'll always be ready. Is there anything more important?
As we talked with people, I watched their faces change. Suspicion became interest. Interest turned to concern. Concern to guilt. But guilt became surprise and amazement. Thank you for helping me share the best gift I've been given.
What are you waiting for? Read, carry, and share the gospel every day. For more information, call 1-800-636-8785 or visit pocketpower.org. That's pocketpower.org.
Here's Dan Celia with today's Stewardship Moment.
It's always amazing to me that only 3 to 4% of Christians tithe. Listen to Ezekiel 44:30. The best of all the first fruits of your special gifts will belong to the priest. You are to give them first portions of your ground meal so that a blessing may rest on your household. It is clear that God in His Word wants us to give first fruits. And I'm sure as I do, you pray for God's blessing upon your household and your family. And as you pray for that blessing, do you give to Him what is rightfully His?
You've just heard a Stewardship Moment with Dan Celia of Financial Issues Ministry, helping you plan, give, and invest wisely. For more information, log on to financialissues.org. That's financialissues.org.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
26 minutes before the top of the hour, we are live on RestoringHopeLive.com. You may be listening on XM Sirius. You may be on the American Family Radio Network or another radio station across the country. Or perhaps you've taken the time to download the podcast. Thank you. Sincerely. This is a ministry that Dr. Hartwig and Bob Montserrat and myself, along with Eric and Maddie, who are producing today, and Mary, our guest, we do this because we want to help. whether it be inside of marriage, which Mike's passionate about, inside of other relationships, which Bob is passionate about, if it's inside of an addiction, a pain, a habit, a hurt, a hang-up. We do this so we can share with you things that usually people don't talk about. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet nobody's ever done a radio show over a 5 to 6 week period going through 12 steps.
There might be a reason for that.
And what would that be?
I don't know. Let's just move on.
But I just, don't you think, Mary, this is kind of odd that this is being done?
Right. I was just trying. Here it is. Here's some words, and it's actually in the 12th step later. It says, we families of 12 step keep few skeletons in the closet. Okay?
Right.
Because that's just who we have to be among ourselves. You know, we've kept secrets for too many years in our lives, and we just have to be transparent and honest to get through this process. And the things that we talk about in 12 step meetings, I think the general public would be like, oh, I can't believe they just said that. And things that we laugh at, they would just be mortified. But it's, again, our experience in that we've been dead and now we're alive, and, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
Not what we did, but it's okay to talk about it and to move forward.
Well, and our secrets keep us sick, and so we share those secrets, and it always happens. It always happens. Somebody will come up and say, man, you really touched my heart when you said that, because that was me.
Yeah.
And I didn't think there was anybody else out there.
Right.
So, all right, I want to move to the 9th step. What do you want to say about the 8th?
I just wanted to say quickly about the 8th, and you mentioned it in the opening, that we really need to work with the sponsor, a step guide, somebody to help us go through the steps that has already been through the process. And you know, the reason is when I made my list and I made the behavior and the impact, then I had to list what I thought the appropriate amend was. And then my step guide helped me, you know, with the words to say, you know, so that I went there and I did keep my side of the street clean, because it says we are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so, never trying to tell him or her what he or she should do. You know, we're just to go there to keep our side of the street clean. So my words, my statements need to be about what I did, not about what they did to me.
And I had someone on my list that my sponsor advised me not to make amends to, because I couldn't stay on my street. I couldn't stay on my side of the street.
And what do you mean by stay on my side of the street? In other words,
not place blame is my guess.
Yeah. Mary would come to me and say, I'm really, I want to amend our relationship. I'm sorry that this thing happened. And I'm not a very good person. And I say back, well, you know why it happened? It's because you did this. And that's what would have happened in this particular case of amends for me. The other person would not, they would have pounced on it over and over and over and over. And it would have caused me to eventually say, listen, you've got a role in this, and you need to accept that. And we can't do that when we can make amends.
No, and that
doesn't work.
No, and I have a situation in sobriety where I owe somebody an amend, but I'm not sure I can change my behavior yet. So I can't make that amend, because amend means to change, you know, to do different, and I'm not sure I can. And so I have to hang on to that until I'm certain I'm at a point where that behavior is going away. Because this isn't about I'm sorry. This is about I was wrong. It was wrong what I did, and you can expect me to be different going forward. And if I can't fit that, I can't make the amend.
Yeah.
Okay, so 25-year-old kid comes and his wife are coming. This is totally fictitious. I'm drawing this up. So if somebody's listening to this and they've been counseling by me, I'm totally making this up. But I can see this happening. 25-year-old kid comes in and he says, and through this counseling process, he comes in and says that my uncle had abused me as an 8-year-old kid. He's angry. Now it's coming in and it's impacting the marriage. So how does he make amends with that?
Who? His wife?
Okay.
Because it's not. See what it is. We talked about this once before about victim. We talked about rape. So this would be a similar situation.
Right.
Okay. Absolutely a victim. 100% a victim.
Right.
The responsibility of me as the victim. How do I let that impact the rest of my life? I have the responsibility to not let that impact the rest of my life and others in my life. Exactly. And so that's my responsibility. That's my side of the street. Totally, I'm a victim. But I have the responsibility to go through counseling, to do whatever, okay?
Sure.
And so that I don't let it affect how I treat others in my life and how it eats my lunch day in and day out, so that I'm an angry victim person to other people.
So to follow this model, what he would do is he would sit down with his wife without giving any excuses. He would say something like,
he would have had to have dealt with it to where it doesn't impact his marriage anymore, or he can't
right,
sit
so
down and talk about it.
How would he make amends with his wife?
Well, if he had gone through counseling and he had healed and he'd understood that he'd been a victim and he had taken that out on his wife and he was prepared, and he can't do it on his own. He's got to bring God into the picture and ask God to help change him, because he can't do it on his own. So if he feels he's been changed, like, wow, finally, I get it. I understand. I dealt with that. Because you can feel, I've had some situations recently where I can feel things have been lifted from me. It's a wonderful gift, okay? And so once he felt that that had been lifted and he could no longer treat his wife the way he'd been treating her, then he can go and sit down.
Say that again. He could no longer...
If he can realize that he will no longer treat his wife the way he's been treating her because of the victim situation, okay? Then he can go to her and say, I need to come clean with you. Here's what's been going on. It's been wrong. I've made you pay for what happened to me when I was 8 years old, and it's not your fault.
That's powerful.
You can expect different from me going forward.
Wow. I mean, the way you phrased that was just ideal. I love the way you said that.
Mm-hmm.
I've been making you pay for me being a victim.
Mm-hmm. And it's not your fault.
Right. It's not your fault.
Think, you counseled my wife and I many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You could hear me say that to her over and over again.
Right.
I made her pay.
Yeah, you bet.
For what happened to me in my childhood.
Right. And the thing is you will intentionally bring pain to everybody's life around you, hoping that you'll get repayment back.
Yeah.
For the pain that somebody gave you, and until you get to that point where you're able to say, you know what, I was a victim, and I'm tired of making other people pay for what happened to me.
Right.
Man, when you get to that point, it's powerful.
And understand, especially for mom listening at home or dad or whoever's listening at home, this doesn't have anything to do with alcohol in so many cases. Okay, him being abused by his uncle and taking it out on his wife, and you didn't add this, but I'll add this, but one of the ways he escapes is he drinks. Alcohol isn't the problem. The problem is the anger and resentment that he carries forward to his uncle and makes everybody around him pay. That's why this STEP program is so important in people's lives. It's not just about people who drink. And if you make that mistake, you're missing it, right? You're missing the point of this program. Everybody could go through this program and put their hurt, habit, or hang-up in where alcohol is assumed, and they would improve their lives.
Right.
All right, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, it is, we talked about clear back in the beginning. Once an alcoholic doesn't know they're alcoholic until they take a drink. And then it's the biological mandate that once we take a drink of alcohol, we're messed up because our body's going to demand more and more and more. And as Max said, people take the drink because, he is still just so mad and so upset because he was, abused when he was 8. And the only way to escape, he takes a drink, he goes out to take a drink to have some fun with his friends, his buddies, whatever, doesn't know he's an alcoholic, and then he starts drinking. And then, of course, we don't think right, and then we get angry, we get resentful, and people are going to pay, and, because who did this to us, and we're victims, and it's just a vicious circle, okay?
Are there people, since you mentioned the biological factor, are there people that just drink and they're not hung up on they don't have any, they're happy and they're engaging and they just don't.
Yeah, there's people that exactly, that, you'll hear people say all the time, I just drank at home. I didn't think I hurt anybody. I just drank at home and whatever. Or there's people that I was just out to have a good time. But if you become alcoholic, if you cross that line, chances are that's gone. Because if that's not gone.
It's where it's impacting other people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or even just ourselves. Even just ourselves. If I'm, for me, and I heard somebody say yesterday, and it was kind of funny how she said it. But for me, is I, took a drink of alcohol, I got drunk, and who knows who I went home with? Okay, I'm serious.
She didn't know who she went home.
Me either. Me either. I'm in her same story, same thing. I would take a drink of alcohol, I'd get drunk. who I woke up next to. This lady particularly said sometimes she'd go through the guy's mail to figure out who she was with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not funny.
Yeah.
I mean, we can laugh at it today because it's just absurd. But that's what happens for me when I drink. And so for me, that's affecting me. That's not hurting anybody else, really,
Right.
because the guy's doing the same thing I'm doing, right? So
Right.
it's not really hurting him. And he's in the same boat as I am, more than likely. And they end up being a whole bunch of one-night stands. And so in that case, I'm hurting me, okay?
Right.
So it doesn't have to be hurting anybody else. I'm hurting me and my reputation and how I feel and who I am.
Now, remember the most important thing about 9. The most important thing about 9 is this part. That is, okay, I'm sorry. Make direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. You can't go to an old boyfriend or girlfriend and make an amend if it would hurt them. You know, if it would harm them, that's not an amend. You're just pounding them on the head again.
So what does it look like when you amend? So let's say that I'm married to you and you want to make amends to me. What does that make? What does that look like?
Well,
you apologize to say, sorry, I got drunk? I mean,
no.
Obviously, it's more
I
in
mean,
depth than that.
that's really a broad question. I'm sure,
it's going to look different in every situation.
It is. And if you're married 10 years, 20 years, you've been drinking heavily, alcoholic for 15 years, that's a lifetime.
Right.
There's an initial sit-down conversation. An example I can give, and I'll try to make this short. It's not, and I have one of my own, but I'll just give this one. I know a gentleman who's got a wonderful program. He was drunk, got in trouble on the job. He was sent to treatment. He was told not to drink again in order to stay employed. Well, he started sneaking around, traveling, drinking again, got a DWI out of state, ended up in jail, okay, that kind of thing. Ended up having to be fired, right? So he did his punishment. He went back to that state. He did some jail time, lived in a halfway house there, worked at a McDonald's, did everything he was supposed to do, still sober today, has an amazing program. He went back to the gentleman that fired him to make an amend.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman said, "Why are you making an amend to me? I fired you." He said, "Because I know the difficult situation I put you in. I know how hard that was for you. You believed in me, I betrayed you, and you had to fire me. And so I'm coming to say to you, my behavior was wrong." That's how deep we get in this program.
Okay, so what you're saying is he walked into the boss's office.
He was already, he called him and asked him to go to lunch.
Can I meet
asked, can meet you for lunch.
Can meet you for, and how did that conversation go? I recognize.
He said, I have an amend to make to you.
And did he know what that meant? I need to make an amend. I mean,
yeah,
if you just came and
he
said
did.
that.
No, yeah, I know both gentlemen, and the boss that fired him absolutely he said, "But what are you making an amend to me for? I fired you." And that's
so is
just
that like
what
an
he
apology? Is like I'm saying I'm sorry?
No, he said, "I need to make an amend to you because I know what I did was wrong. I was not to drink on the job. I drank on the job. You put faith in me."
Right.
And
I'm hung up on the word amend. To the common person in the world, if I
mean, amend is to change, is to do different, right? Is to
Right.
make different. So he's saying to him, I put you in a difficult situation. We call it amend, but, he was going to him to admit that he was wrong. And was there anything I needed to do to make the situation right? I need to say that to you, that I understand the position I put you in and what I did was wrong.
And this is the way I would say it is boss, I recognize what I did was absolutely wrong. I put you in a difficult position. And then he would follow up, is there anything I need to do
to make the situation right?
Now, we also have to add the 10th step here, because part of an amend is what we call living amends.
Which is a continuation.
That's right.
Right.
And that's something I have humbly done 100 times with my wife, and I'll do it another 1,000 before I leave this earth, probably.
Is that because you think of something else?
Yeah.
It's our daily life. After we've done the 8th and 9th step, this is for our daily life. It gives us an opportunity, and Mac was maybe going to read it, but step 10 is continue to take personal inventory. When we were wrong, promptly admitted it. So as soon as I do something wrong during the day, I have the opportunity to come to you and say, you know what I just said was wrong. Mm-hmm. What I just did was wrong, and I just need, to apologize or whatever the situation is to make it right. And, it talks to us about, because of how we think and how we're mentally deficient, whether we like to admit that or not.
That's true.
But, it says when we have to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. It says when these crop up, not if. So they're expected to come back up in our life. And when they do, I'm not going to make the best decisions. Okay, anytime I'm planning my day around my selfish needs, probably other people are going to suffer, right?
Right.
And then I have the opportunity when I realize that. I don't know if you have any examples in mind or anything that you're, would be okay to share.
For me, unfortunately, too often I'll be watching a movie or a television show, and I'll see a husband verbally abuse, because my hands never touched anybody, but verbally, my tongue was a weapon. It's the most tongues are 4 inches long, and I can take down a 6-foot man with a 4-inch tongue. And so I'll watch a TV program where a man says something emotionally abusive to his wife, and because I have now recognized that was me to her, probably within an hour of that happening, I'll go upstairs or wherever she is, and I'll say, hey, I just want you to know that I was just watching this program, and this guy said these things to his wife, and it reminded me of some of the things I said to you, and I'm just really sorry. And I'm going to amend our relationship by not ever making you go through that again.
Does she ever get tired of that? I mean, does it ever get like,
do I get tired of her?
No,
or does she?
Does she get tired of you?
No, I'm married to a wonderful woman.
But I can imagine, though, if you're doing that every 10 minutes or 15 minutes or every day even.
Well, but
it's like if my wife came to me every day and she said, hey, I thought of something else I messed up. I mean, after a while, it becomes too, at least I would feel, from my perspective, she was doing that to me. I would feel like, yeah, right.
Well, your wife is not married to as good a guy as my wife is married to. But my wife.
Wait a minute, I want amends for that.
No, she has not, and she has never said to me, I understand these things are going to come up. It's okay. You don't need to come up and tell me this.
Okay, the illustration: woman abusive to son. She's convicted. She understands what she screwed up. And every time she goes through a similar experience, picks up the phone, calls her son, says, hey, I'm sorry. I remembered this. I remember when this happened. I'm sorry.
That's your story.
You're right.
With your mom, right?
Yeah. But what do you do with that? I mean, after a while, you're just living in this cycle where you're just constantly living in the past. Doesn't there come a point where you just kind of have to say, it's all forgiven and we're moving forward?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess in the context that Mac is sharing, she probably doesn't get, he probably has changed his behavior mostly. And she probably doesn't get tired of him coming to her and saying, you know what, I just thought of something. I talked to you that way once or, whatever.
Right.
And I am so sorry you had to go through that. And, I suppose she might someday say to him, yeah, you have more than amended. You treat me differently today. It's
Right.
okay, or not. Or she may, because she did go through however many years of
16 years.
Yeah, of his, it's
So
like,
you're going to go 16 years of making
I'd like
amends
to. I would
every
love
16
to.
years?
Nothing would please me more for me to live. I've been 4 years, so nothing would please me more than to be able to have been sober longer than I drank. Because when she married me, I didn't drink.
Right.
I did not drink
It just
until
feel-
4 years into our relationship.
It doesn't feel like there's ever a resolution to it. Now, here's what I like about it, though, and that is that I think the constant spirit of humility is awesome, and that is. I never want to go back to that.
And Mike, I don't know how to explain this, and Mary, maybe she can do it better. But if we don't stay in that constant sphere of humility, we're going to drink again.
Yeah.
Well, I've said all my amends. I've made
Right.
everything right. I can drink now.
Right.
here's what I think the key is. It's not that he is talking to her that way and apologizing, talking to her that way and apologizing, talking to her that way and apologizing. That's what we did when we drank. Okay, if these are, recognitions.
You mean talking ugly to her and apologizing?
I'm sorry. Saying, being disrespectful,
Right.
apologizing, disrespectful, apologizing. That's what we did when we were drinking. If he's just coming to her to say, you know what, I just saw this program. It reminded me of when I talked to you that way, and I just want to say, it is, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I can't imagine she'd ever get tired of hearing that. Okay, because he is still, looking over his past, and things
Right.
are coming to mind, and that happens. And there may be 2 or 3 really big ones that are still there that he hasn't remembered, that she's saying, oh, I can't wait till he comes to apologize for that time,
Right.
or not. I don't know. But the whole point is, for us just to continue to recognize, our bad behaviors and, hey, we're doing different. And she may say to him one day, you know what?
Let's stop this.
Yeah, and I don't know, and maybe and he's just saying, he wants to do that because he just feels,
Let me ask you this: do you ever encourage the people that you're a sponsor with? Do you ever encourage them to? When you say make amends, it's not just verbally, but when you say, what is it that I can do?
Right.
Is there anything I can do to make it right?
I heard a speaker in the program say once, he said that, he went to his wife to make amends and said, Mom, what can I do to make the situation right? She said, I just want you to be happy. He said, so you know what I do? I go by my mom's house one day a week happy. And that was his amends to her.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's when she said that. He shows up in a good mood, smiling. How you doing, Mom? Great to see you. Happy. So she knows her son is happy.
Give you another example.
Nice example. That's good.
My wife loves nothing more than spending time with her children and grandchildren. It is a different world for her. When I was drinking, I was jealous of that. Okay.
You were jealous that she had that time with your kids
and
grandkids,
and that she was so happy with them and wasn't so happy with me. She felt joy with them and didn't feel so much joy with me.
Okay.
So one of my living amends is I never, you know what never means, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never deny her that opportunity to spend time with her children and grandchildren as long as she wants. Hours.
Without
days,
copying an attitude.
Without copying an attitude. We had my daughter's 39th birthday yesterday. And my wife, nobody throws a party better than my wife. It was like a party for an 8-year-old. Balloons, different games, and you got tickets, and she made up a bingo game, and we had cake, and we just had all this wonderful food. And I'm beat, and I'm tired, and the house is hot, and I've been cooking. I'm the one that cooks. I've been slaving over a hot stove all day. And yet I was with her right till the end.
That's your living amends.
That's my living amends.
So do you have a living amends? Does everybody have living amends?
In the program we do.
It's our daily life. Hopefully we have changed enough and we are living a life of principle. Let me just say real quickly, it says in here, at the moment we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end to itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. It says, yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. A remorseful mumbling that we're sorry won't fit the bill at all, which goes into what I was saying about us being wrong. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. That is our daily life, hopefully. Going from what we used to be to what we are today, to be of maximum service to God and our fellows.
Yeah, and principle number two is there is a power that's greater than ourselves that can restore this relationship.
Yeah.
And that's the secret of it. The only way that you're going to be able to live in continual personal inventory
is a relationship with a higher power. It's the only way. It's the only solution.
That's right.
With Jesus Christ.
And when you have a relationship with Jesus, because I didn't have one when I was drinking.
Right.
I was a God guy. I knew God. Why did I need the kid?
Right.
Went to church every Sunday. Prayed God. Jesus who? I get it. And I if you asked me if I was a Christian, you know what I answered? Well, I'm Episcopalian.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a deep-rooted relationship with Jesus Christ, and he wants me to act that way around Mary or my wife or you, for heaven's sakes. You push my buttons more than most people. And yet, for the most part, we stay fairly cordial.
Right.
Thanks for listening today. I hear the music in the background. That tells us our time is up. We'll be back next week with steps 11 and 12. No, we've got Herb on. We've got a special guest, Herb K, on next week from California, who really knows how to walk a spiritual program through these steps. And then Mary and I and Mike and Bob will finish up with step 11 and 12 in a couple of weeks. Go to our website for more information. I'd love to hear your stories. RestoringHopeLive.com. Thanks to our sponsor and our backer, Transformations Treatment Centers in Florida. And until we meet again, do one thing for me, would you? Please, just one. Just pray.